Hello everyone, welcome back to Edible Abundance Homestead. I'm Ginger and today is August 22nd. So I came out to my garden yesterday and I got completely overwhelmed with what needs to be done out here. And I had come out here with this idea in my head that I was just going to get some work done in the garden. And there's just so much to do that was not a good enough plan. I had brought out the buckets and stuff to pick because I knew there was quite a lot out here that needed to be picked before it started going bad, and a lot of it was starting to go bad. So that was good. I did go through, I picked some eggplants, I picked some tomatoes, I picked some okra, and some noodle beans, especially the things that when they get too big, they go bad. I also went through and I cleared out some of the ones that were already too big and tossed them to my chickens. So that was kind of like my one clear thing that I knew needed to be done. Oh, I picked corn also. We had some corn for dinner last night. And I had kind of thought, well, maybe I'll start clearing out the tomatoes. And so as I was picking, you can see how sad my tomato plants look back there. I was kind of trying to clear out some of the branches that were in bad shape and just kind of start cutting stuff back. But then that was taking forever. And I had also brought out the squash plants and the cucumber plants that I'd started. And so after I had kind of messed around with the tomato plants for maybe 30 minutes, I kind of stopped. And I thought about what needed to be done, what needed to be prioritized, because the tomato plants will still be there and they'll still need to be cleared out, for months if they need to be. But those squash plants had to go in the ground. So there's 3 of them. There's one more over on the other side of my bush beans that I planted a couple weeks ago. They were overgrowing their pots. They were starting to actually fall over out of the pots because they were getting so tall for them. So they're out here now and they are looking great. And they had to go in because they're going to die when it gets cold. And if they aren't in the ground and growing now, they're not going to have time to produce anything before they die. So that's great. So then they were the top priority. So then I came out and I decided I wanted to plant my cucumbers. So there's 2 of them. Got 2 of them over here. In order to do that, I had to decide what to do with this area in the middle of my arches. So I decided just to tear everything out. I pulled out the radishes that had gone to seed, the dill and the cilantro that had gone to seed. I actually kind of intentionally dropped a bunch of the seeds, and I figure if some of it regrows, that's great, and if not, oh well. When I pulled them, I actually found radishes growing. Oops, sorry, that's hard to see. So those look like radishes to me. So I made sure I left them alone. So that if they grow into radish, it's great. If they don't, oh well. Same down at the end under the noodle bean trellis. When I pulled the weeds out, which took a bit of work, by the way, I found radishes growing under there, but they were leggy from being so smothered by all the weeds. So I went through and I kind of pulled everything out. Like I said, I didn't really grab all the seeds. I kind of let the seeds fall as much as they could. I definitely saw a lot of clumps of dill seeds on the ground, and some radish pods, that sort of thing. We'll see what happens. But that gave me the space to put in. I put in 5 cucumber plants. There's one over there where I used to have my cantaloupes. I had another one that didn't make it out of the pot. I don't know if it got too hot or something knocked it over or what happened. So I started another seed in the pot. We'll see if it makes it or not. At this point, this is all kind of bonus, So anyway, so those are my top priorities yesterday, and I got them done. After I wasted a bunch of time doing things that really didn't need to be priorities. But anyway, that's fine. So now I'm out here today, and I have some tomato sauce simmering on the stove. I picked most of the ripe tomatoes yesterday, but I do want to go through and check again this morning. when I come out and take care of the chickens in the morning, I like to do a quick loop around the garden just to make sure nothing's like fallen over or anything's happened that I could quick fix and possibly save something. I saw a couple tomatoes that I had missed, so I want to go through and do a little bit better job. One thing about having all your tomato plants basically dead is that it makes it really easy to see the tomatoes because there's no living foliage hiding them. Bright sides. You gotta look at the bright sides. So I will pull any tomatoes that are ripe and toss them into my sauce. My plan is at some point to go through and pull all the green tomatoes and turn them into the green salsa that's in the ball, one of the ball books. I don't have cilantro right now. I was really hoping to grow my own cilantro in time, but it's not going to be in time, so I just need to cave and go to the grocery store and buy some cilantro, because a $1 bag of cilantro should not be what's stopping me from making, pints and pints of salsa. So yeah, that's the plan for right now. That's the priority for right now. I picked the okra really thoroughly yesterday, so there shouldn't be okra to worry about. I picked the noodle beans really thoroughly. There were a lot of noodle beans that I had let go too long. Just didn't get out here, didn't get around to them. That's fine. I tossed them to the chickens. I noticed the chickens do really seem to like the noodle beans. And I had a watermelon split open, I guess just from the heat, and so it got tossed to the chickens. It had already gotten pretty invaded by ants and it was starting to look a little moldy. So a lot of times I would try to save, half of it if I could, but it just wasn't worth it at that point. So I'm going to get to work and possibly check back in when I figure out what my next priority is. Okay, so I got the tomatoes picked. A few big ones that I kind of left yesterday because I thought they weren't quite ripe enough. I don't know if they just ripened up that much, in a day, or maybe I was being too picky yesterday and I'm not being so picky today. I also picked a bucket of cherry tomatoes, which might not have been the best use of my time, but I can't stand to see them rot on the plant. And they can go in my sauce, and I will set, a quart or so aside for me and my son to munch on because we both love them. Of course, there were some okra ready. I mean, it's okra. How silly of me to think that I picked it yesterday and there wouldn't be any more ready today. I did want to show you this absolutely massive okra plant. This plant has got to be well over 6 feet tall. It is huge. I believe this one is a Clemson spineless. I mixed up the tags for the Clemson spineless and the emerald okra that I planted, but based on the shape of the pods that come off of this one, I think this is the Clemson spineless. It is incredibly huge. The emerald ones are not quite so big, although I have liked the okra that they produce. It seems to stay kind of a little more short and fat and a little bit slower to get tough. And these are my burgundy, I believe they're called. This is what I planted the most of because it's always kind of fun to have something that's not green. The reds are fun. My kids like it. And I have, what do I have? 8 of these plants and then 2 of each of the others. Honestly, that probably wasn't enough okra for us 12 plants. I have enough set aside right now. I'm going to do a half batch of okra pickles from one of the ball canning books. Up until now, my kids eat them too fast. My oldest likes them raw. My youngest doesn't care so much for having them raw, but she will gladly eat them sauteed in butter, which is what I usually do with them. I did try for the first time making fried okra this year, and it was all right. It was a lot of work and a lot of mess, and I think we like them well enough sauteed in butter that it's almost not worth frying them, because you have to bread them and everything. So anyway, I have okra pickles to make, tomato sauce to continue making, and then can, which is probably something I'll do after bedtime tonight. If I can get the sauce to the point that it's just on a simmer on the stove, I can take an hour or whatever to do bedtime, and then I'll come back out and can it after everyone's in bed, just because I do can things during the day when the kids are up, but it's a lot of hot stuff going on in the kitchen. Anything that I can't take my attention away from, honestly, can't really happen during the day in my house, except for nap time, which has been my time to come out in the garden, even though, as you can see, it is really hot out today. So those are the immediate plans. I have I have eggplants that need to be breaded, baked, and put in the freezer. I noticed some peppers over there that I had missed, so I have some green peppers to pick and freeze. I really need to be spending like 10 hours a day in the garden and 10 hours a day in the kitchen, but that just doesn't add up when you have little kids, especially. So I'm gonna get these tomatoes inside and get them cooking. The next priority out here, I think, is going to be putting seeding. I need to seed beets and carrots really soon now. I don't know where I'm going to put them yet. I have been thinking that what I might do, there's not a lot of corn left. And the corn that we had last night was good, but there were a couple of ears that were a little tough. They've been out here too long. So what I'm thinking I might do is pick the rest of, maybe not the rest of it, maybe pick like 2 rows worth of the corn, pull out the plants, and plant beets and carrots here. And then I can wait, a week or 2 and do the next 2 rows and plant beets and carrots again. I have this crazy idea. I'm not sure if it's actually going to happen, but this is what I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about putting my greens, my kale, Swiss chard, spinach, and lettuce under the arches, and then trying to put some covering over them. I have some, I need to look at it. I bought it from a market gardener who was no longer going to be in the business, and I think it's frost fabric. It's like a white kind of gauzy stuff, but this is really tall to do that with. So I don't know. I might just try it, because why not? If I can keep my greens going for like an extra month or so, that would be wonderful, especially the lettuces. The other stuff, the spinach and stuff, if it gets snowed on or frozen or whatever, it's fine. It doesn't really care. It doesn't get mushy or anything, but lettuce does. I also have my cauliflower, cabbage, that stuff to think about, and I'm not sure where I want to put it. It's really too small to put out yet. It's not growing very well for me. I might have to end up seeing if I can find some starts for it. But anyway, that's this crazy idea that I have about covering one or all of these arches. But if I'm going to do that, there's no point in planting carrots, beets, even radishes really under there, because those are all things that can just stay in the snow. I mean, carrots last year, I was out here in like the middle of January digging them up from under the snow, because the tops die off in the snow, but the ground acts like a refrigerator for the carrots. So anyway, these are things I'm thinking about, and I need to make those decisions, because it is really time. I'm going to plant kale from seed. All my greens I'm going to plant from seed. And my roots, my beets and carrots and stuff, and they need to be getting in the ground soon. So that's going to have to be the next priority, is figuring out where they're going to go and getting them out here. Peas. I got to plant peas somewhere too. I was just thinking about if I'm going to do anything with my tomato trellises, or my tomato panels. I don't know. Peas are an idea. Or I could put the peas where the noodle beans are. The only problem is the peas will survive the frost, so then I won't be able to cover those trellises, because it would damage the pea plants to lay the cloth over them. I'm gonna have to think about this. Things to think about, because I could possibly put pea plants on my tomato panels, but I'd really like to get the chickens back out here. Let them eat bugs and weeds and seeds and dropped fruit and all that stuff. Get them out of that run because their run has gotten pretty gross. Something smells really bad over there. I think something might be dead underneath the coop, because it's not just a poop smell at this point. It's rotting animal, which is terrible, and I have no way of getting it out from under there. So, but anyway, so the next priority is making plans for the seeded crops and getting those seeds put out here in the ground because they need to get moving. The radishes can wait a while because they're super quick to grow, but the carrots, the beets, and most of the greens need to start getting out. And I'd like to try doing a bit more succession planting. I haven't really managed to do that in the past, but I'd like to try to focus on that so I have more of a flow of harvest rather than kind of having to come out and get everything at once. So I'm going to call that good for today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Make some priorities in your own garden.